Hey guys, for lesson 3 for our social studies unit on economy, we are talking about money. Have you ever heard the expression money makes the world go round? What does that phrase mean to you? Money is a very important part of our lives. The world's economy depends upon money to survive. So remember, we said economy is the money that the money that our country or an area has, how much money is spent, how much money people save. Um, Money helps us to have a place to live, have clothes to wear, and helps us buy the food we need to survive. What evidence of money do you see in this picture? Well, if you look, you can see we have to spend money to pay for our water, um, to pay for the supplies, decorations, the kitchen supplies, the soap, the house that they live in, the clothes that they're wearing. How do we get money? We get money from income. Income is money that people earn. People can earn an income from a job. So when your parents go to work and they make money, their paycheck is their income. How do we use money? Once a person has an income, they realize that life comes with many expenses. Expenses are things you have to pay for. Expenses are the opposite of income. So when we pay bills and buy groceries and spend money on new toys or clothes, those are expenses. What is a budget? A budget is a plan for the income that you have to live on for a certain amount of time. When a person gets paid, he or she is not going to spend all their income at the grocery store. Instead, a person will understand what other bills and expenses they have to pay. That person will then know how much they can afford to spend on groceries. So, most of the time when people get paid, they split up their money and decide, okay, I have to pay this much in bills and I'll spend this much on groceries and we'll have this much extra money. How do people budget their money? Every month, families typically have to budget where their money goes so that they can ensure they have enough money to survive. These are called expenses. Some expenses in a family budget include housing, so your house payment or your rent, medical bills, like your doctor bills or going to the dentist, utilities, electric, water, TV, entertainment, sports, hobbies, eating out, shopping. Once a person earns an income, he or she must decide how to use the money. Saving and spending are both parts of a budget. People save their money, buy more expensive things, or to have save their money to buy more expensive things or to have money just in case there's a loss of income or an emergency. Saving money in the present helps people have more money in the future. So it's always good to take some of your money and not spend it and put it back so that you are saving money. People may choose to spend their money based on things they need and things they want. So here are some examples of savings: putting money in the bank, saving up to buy a house, saving money for college, using coupons. And here are some examples of spending: buying groceries, making a house payment, paying the water bill, and back to school shopping. All right, we're going to listen to this read aloud.
If tomorrow's career success depends on how you get work done, why not choose a high school that gives you the right tools? K-12 powered career.
Hello and welcome back to another edition of Sankofa Read Aloud. Today's story is titled Uncle Jed's Barbershop by Marjorie King Mitchell, illustrated by James Ransom. I hope that you enjoy this beautiful story. Jedediah Johnson was my granddaddy's brother. Everybody has their favorite relative. Well, Uncle Jedediah was mine. He used to come by our house every Wednesday night with his clippers. He was the only black barber in the county. Dad said that before Uncle Jed started cutting hair, he and Granddaddy used to have to go 30 miles to get a haircut. After Uncle Jed cut my daddy's hair, he lathered a short brush with soap and spread it over my daddy's face and shaved him. Then he started over my granddaddy. I always asked Uncle Jed to cut my hair, but Mama wouldn't let him. So we would run the clippers on the back of my neck and just pretend to cut my hair. He even spread lotion on my neck. I would smell wonderful all day. When he was done, he would pick me up and sit me in his lap and tell me about the barbershop he was going to open one day and about all the fancy equipment that would be in it. The sinks would be so shiny they sparkled. The floor so clean you could see yourself. He was going to have 4 barber chairs, and outside was going to be a big, tall, red and white barber pole. He told me he was saving up for it. He had been saying the same things for years. Nobody believed him. People didn't have dreams like that in those days. We lived in the South. Most people were poor. My daddy owned a few acres of land, and so did a few others. But most people were sharecroppers. That meant they lived in a shack and worked somebody else's land in exchange for a share of the crop. When I was 5 years old, I got sick. This particular morning, I didn't come into the kitchen while Mama was fixing breakfast. Mama and Daddy couldn't wake me up. My nightgown and bedclothes were all wet where I had sweated. Mama wrapped me in a blanket while Daddy went outside and hitched the horse to the wagon. We had to travel about 20 miles into town to the hospital. It was midday when we got there. We had to go to the colored waiting room. In those days, they kept blacks and whites separate. There were separate public restrooms, separate water fountains, separate schools. It was called segregation. So in the hospital, we had to go to the colored waiting room. Even though I was unconscious, the doctors wouldn't look at me until they had finished with all the white patients. When the doctors did examine me, they told my daddy that I needed an operation and that it would cost $300. $300 was a lot of money in those days. My daddy didn't have that kind of money, and the doctors wouldn't do the operation until they had the money. My mama bundled me up in the blankets, and they took me home. Mama held me in her arms all night. She kept me alive until Daddy found Uncle Jed. He found him early the next morning in the next county on his way to cut somebody's hair. Daddy told him about me. Uncle Jed leaned on his bent cane and stared straight ahead. He told Daddy that the money didn't matter. He couldn't let anything happen to his Sarah Jean. Well, I had the operation. For a long time after that, Uncle Jed came by the house every day to see how I was doing. I know that $300 delayed him from opening the barbershop. Uncle Jed came awfully close to opening his shop a few years later after my operation. He had saved enough money to buy the land and build the building, but he still needed money for the equipment. Anyway, Uncle Jed had came by the house. We had just finished supper when there was a knock on the door. It was Mr. Ernest Walters, a friend of Uncle Jed's. He had come by to tell Uncle Jed about the bank failing. That was where Mr. Walters and Uncle Jed had their money. Uncle Jed had over $3,000 in the bank, and it was gone. Uncle Jed just stood there a long time before he said anything. Then he told Mr. Walters that even though he was disappointed, he would just have to start all over again. Talk about some hard times. That was the beginning of the Great Depression. Nobody had much money. But Uncle Jed kept going around to his customers cutting their hair. Even though they couldn't pay him, his customers shared with him whatever they had: a hot meal, fresh eggs, vegetables from the garden. And when they were able to pay again, they did. And Uncle Jed started saving all over again. Oh, Uncle Jed finally got his barbershop. He opened it on his 79th birthday. It had everything just like he said it would: big, comfortable chairs, 4 cutting stations, you name it. The floors were so clean, they sparkled. On opening day, people came from all over the county. They were old Uncle Jed's customers. He had walked to see them for so many years. That day, they all came to him. I believe he cut hair all night and all the next day and the next night and the day after that. That man was so glad to have that shop, he didn't need any sleep. Of course, I was there too. I wouldn't have missed it for the world. When I sat in one of the big barber chairs, Uncle Jed patted the back of my neck with lotion, like he always did. Then he twirled me around and around in the barber chair. Uncle Jed died not long after that, and I think he died a happy man. You see, he made his dream come true even when nobody else believed in it. He taught me to dream too.
Okay, so in this story, um, we learned about Uncle Jed, the income that he made, which was the money that he made from cutting people's hair, and all the expenses that caused him to lose his money, and the way that he spent his money, and the way that he saved, and he had to keep saving over and over and to make his dreams come true. So we've talked a little bit about us having our pretend class party. Um, we kind of planned out what we need for that party. Today, in your social studies journal, and you don't have to turn this in, I just want you to make a little list of some things that you have that you could do to make money. What are some things that kids could do to get an income, to make money to pay for the stuff for a party?